The world didn't go silent. It collapsed. Because the same pregnant beggar woman my husband helped outside the clinic this afternoon was now standing at the grave of his first wife. Her silhouette was identical. Her trembling breath was identical. Her presence felt impossible. My name is Serafina Voss, 28, and until tonight, I believed my husband's past was nothing but dust and memory. I believed the man I married was gentle, honest, grieving, not someone who would go pale at the sight of a stranger. Only hours ago, as we walked out of the clinic, we saw her, a frail pregnant girl sitting on the cold pavement. My husband, Dr. Cashin Voss, knelt beside her with a softness he rarely showed anyone. He pressed money into her palm. He murmured, "You shouldn't be alone in your condition." I thought it was compassion. But the way he's looking at her now, it's something else. Something deeper. Something dangerous. Under the cemetery's fading light, she slowly raised her face. Cashin stiffened, breath hitching. Then, in a whisper cold enough to split bone, she said, "Didn't you recognize me?" Cashin's hand slipped from mine, and she stepped closer. Cashin's fingers trembled as he pulled away from me, a movement so small, yet sharp enough to cut. The pregnant girl stood inches from his first wife's grave, her hands resting over her stomach, her eyes fixed on him, as if she'd been waiting years for this exact moment. I swallowed hard. "Cashin, who is she?" But he didn't answer. His jaw clenched, his breathing shallow, his eyes refusing to meet mine. That's when the unease inside me, something I'd ignored for months, finally began to take shape. Little things I'd brushed aside. Late nights at the clinic. Unsent messages on his phone. The way he flinched whenever someone mentioned his first wife, Alina. When we married, Cashin told me Alina's death was tragic, but the details were always blurry. A car accident, a storm, a malfunctioning set of brakes. Each time I asked, the story shifted slightly. Never enough to alarm me, but enough that a smarter woman would have noticed. And now here we stood, Cashin frozen, this mysterious pregnant girl staring at him, like she held the missing pages of a story I was never meant to read. "Cashin," I whispered again. "Tell me who she is." He finally opened his mouth, but the girl spoke first. "I warned you I would return." Her words sliced through the night air, sharp enough to make Cashin stumble back. "I warned you I would return." Return from what? Return from where? She spoke as if she'd stepped out of a grave instead of standing beside one. I moved closer to Cashin, but he looked terrified. Not shocked, terrified, like he'd seen a ghost wearing flesh. "Cashin," I said quietly, "what is she talking about?" He didn't answer. Instead, he whispered her name, barely audible. "Lyra?" The girl's lips curved, not into a smile, but into something darker, a recognition that chilled me to the bone. "Good," she murmured. "You still remember." My heartbeat thrashed violently. Lyra, a name I had never heard in my entire marriage. But Cashin spoke it like a wound he thought had healed, only to find it bleeding again. Lyra stepped closer, hand resting protectively on her stomach. "You promised me everything, Cashin. A life, a future, safety." Cashin shook his head, voice cracking. I thought you were gone." Her eyes hardened. "Oh, I was. Just not the way you hoped." A cold shiver climbed my spine. What exactly had my husband hoped for? Cashin reached for me suddenly. But Lyra lifted her hand. "Don't," she warned softly. "She deserves to hear the truth, too." The truth. The way she said it, steady, cold, unblinking, made my stomach twist. Lyra turned toward me fully now, her pregnant belly framed by the moonlight. And for the first time, I felt like I was the intruder on her story. "Serafina," she said softly, and the sound of my name in her mouth felt wrong, invasive. "You think you married a good man. But men like Cashin, they don't change. They just replace." Cashin stepped forward, desperate. "Lyra, stop, please." But she didn't even spare him a glance. "Do you know why his first wife, Alina, died?" she asked. Her tone was too calm, too controlled. like a scalpel cutting without hesitation. I swallowed. He told me it was an accident. Lyra laughed. A hollow, broken sound that didn't belong to a living person. An accident? Is that what he called it this time? Cashin's voice cracked. Lyra, don't. You don't know what you're saying. Oh, I know exactly what I'm saying. She looked at him with a hatred that felt centuries old. You promised Alina a child, just like you promised me. My breath froze. A child? His first wife had been pregnant. Why had he never told me that? Lyra's eyes locked onto mine. And when she found out the truth, she died exactly like he needed her to. The world tilted violently. And Cashin whispered, broken. Don't believe her. His words, don't believe her, felt weak, trembling, terrified. But Lyra's voice, her voice carried the weight of someone who had nothing left to lose. I stepped back from both of them, my pulse thundering in my ears. Cashin, I whispered, tell me she's lying. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Not denial, not anger, not even fear, just silence. And silence, in moments like this, is louder than confession. Lyra watched him crumble, then turned to me with a strange gentleness. This isn't about ruining your marriage, Serafina. This is about what he does to women when they become inconvenient. A sickening cold spread through me. How do you know all this? Her hand slid protectively over her belly. Because I confronted him when I found out I was pregnant. Cashin flinched, so hard it looked painful. Lyra continued, calm as a surgeon. He told me children complicate his life. He told me Alina didn't handle the news well. He told me he couldn't afford another mistake. A tear slid down her cheek, but her voice stayed steady. He tried to make sure I disappeared too, but I survived. Cashin finally snapped. That's not what happened. His outburst echoed through the cemetery. But Lyra didn't even blink. I looked at him, heartbreaking and hardening at the same time. If Lyra was telling the truth, then I needed a plan. A careful one. A quiet one. A deadly one. Revenge didn't come to me like anger. It came like clarity, quiet, calculated, surgical. The same precision Cashin used to build his life. I would use to dismantle it. But first, I needed him to keep talking. To expose himself. To unravel in front of the only witness he couldn't control anymore, me. Cashin, I said softly. If Lyra is lying, then explain. Explain why you told me Alina died, instantly. Explain why you never mentioned she was pregnant. He stared at me, sweat gathering at his temples. It wasn't my place to reopen old wounds, he stammered. Weak answer. Too weak. Lyra scoffed. Tell her the real reason. Tell her how Alina begged you for help while you stood there calculating what her death would solve. Cashin lunged toward Lyra, not violently, but frantically, like a man trying to stop a bomb from detonating. Stop. Lyra, stop. You don't understand what you're causing. I stepped between them, voice icy calm. No, Cashin. It's time you understand. His eyes widened as I lifted my phone. It was already recording. Lyra smiled, broken, but victorious. Good, she whispered. Let him tell the world. Cashin's face drained of color. Serafina, please don't do this. But I had already begun. Cashin reached for me, desperation distorting every line of his face. Serafina, stop the recording. Please, we can fix this. Fix this? Fix what? A dead wife, a vanished lover, a buried truth? Lyra folded her arms over her stomach, glaring at him with a fury carved from years of silence. You never wanted to fix anything, Cashin. You wanted control. You wanted obedience. And when women didn't give it to you, you removed them. Cashin shook his head violently. That is not true. Alina's death. It was an accident. She lost balance, she fell. The more he spoke, the more panicked he became. His voice cracked. His hands trembled. His lies tangled around him like barbed wire. I stepped closer, holding the phone steady. Cashin, if it was an accident, Why did you tell Lyra she was the same problem Alina had been? His jaw locked. A single, fatal pause. Lyra exhaled shakily. That's it. That hesitation. That's who he really is. Cashin's face twisted. You don't understand. I was trying to protect my life. My career. And you were willing to destroy ours, I said quietly. His eyes filled with something close to fear. Serafina, please don't betray me. I lowered the phone just enough for him to hope, then said, I'm not betraying you, Cashin. I'm exposing you. His knees nearly buckled. Cashin collapsed onto the damp grass, his hands buried in his hair, his breath coming in sharp, broken gasps. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked small, not powerful, not respected, just a man cornered by his own truth. Serafina, he whispered, if you release that recording, my life is over. I crouched to his level, my voice steady, controlled, the voice of a woman who had finally woken up. Your life? Alina lost hers. Lyra almost lost hers. And you wanted me to be next. His eyes widened, fear slicing through them. You wouldn't. You're not like them. No, I said softly. I'm worse. Because I'm not afraid of you anymore. Lyra stepped forward, her hand on her belly, her voice trembling but firm. You will never hurt another woman again, Cashin. I sent the recording, not to the police, not yet, but to the medical board, to his hospital director, to his prestigious research partners. Every pillar holding up his perfect life. A vibration buzzed through my phone. Then another. Then dozens. Notifications exploding like fireworks. Cashin looked up at me, face draining of hope. What did you do? I stood tall, feeling the weight lift off my chest. Something you never expected, I said. I chose myself. Beside me, Lyra whispered, It's over. I looked at Cashin one last time, a man unraveling beneath the ghosts he created, and walked away with her into the night.